Okay, welcome to Daily Satsang. This is Sachin here. The question of sanskara is, sanskara means impression on the mind. We have obviously whole collection of thoughts and ideas and everything going on. So what is a sanskar? So let's take, for example, if you have a pure white cotton cloth, right? And you take a Q-tip and you dip it in red dye, and then you make just one line. Maybe you make an om, or you make some symbol or something like that with that red dye on that white cloth. So now the cloth is colored with that dye. Isn't it so? It is colored with that, whatever that line. They just make one simple line. You make one line. So the cloth is now taking on that color. The cloth is still the cloth. The cotton is still the cotton. But now it is colored with that dye. Similarly, our mind, which is antakarana means internal instrument, it is constantly being colored by the sense data that is coming through the senses. All the time, right now, there are so many different objects, there are different images of the various incarnations in my room here, there's a soda can here, there's so many different objects around me, just right now. So I am in contact with them. Now I'm in contact with them to some extent. There is a minimal sanskara that is created. So there is sanskara in the sense that there is a memory. There is a memory. It's an impression. Okay, but see the word. What is the difference between memory and impression? I have a memory of starting today's satsang at about 10 minutes back. I have a memory of listening to the Ashtotar Namavali of Sri Ganesha. Okay, I have a memory of that. Now, if I am interested in that Ashtotar Namavali, as an example, which we just heard, the more interest I have, the more sanskar I get. It depends on how much attention, focus, concentration, interest I place on the sense stimulation, because it is a sense stimulation. If we listen to any mantra, like for example, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, this is a mantra. This is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the first line, actually, the first mantra, right? So if we listen to the mantra, but those who are, let's say, worshipping Sri Krishna, they do this mantra quite often, and then the meaning behind it, the intensity behind it, so that becomes a sanskara. So now there's karma, meaning the activity that is performed, that I am performing a worship, I am performing a spiritual act, whatever. Right now Sachin is talking, this is a karma also. It is an action. So that action creates a memory. While the action is being performed, memory is simultaneously being created. But the intensity of the sanskara, the level of sanskara, is dependent on how much energy and focus and interest I have within that. Isn't it so? It has to be that. All right. Now there are several types of sanskaras. There's three kinds of sanskaras from my perspective, from what I have understood over the years. One category is ashubh sanskara. Ashubh meaning those kinds of sanskaras that are going to create further and further engulfment in ignorance. Agyan ki jo sthiti hai, kam, krodh, lobh, moha, matsar, the shadripu, all that thing, that gets stronger and stronger. So that is called ashubh sanskar. Wo shubh nahi hai. Then the second category is shubha sanskara. And these things are mixed also. Not everything is black and white like that. There are a lot of mixtures there. But shubh sanskar is where, let's just say that we're going into a garden, or we're listening to really beautiful classical music, or we have a nice conversation with a good friend. These are all good quality experiences. They are also sanskaras. So for example, husband and wife are there, they're married, let's say, and they are celebrating, their 50th anniversary or 20th anniversary or whatever, and there's a lot of friends and a lot of good positive feeling and love and affection. This is called shubh sanskar, right? So it is still within the realm of maya, but it is a good quality maya. It's not harmful to us like that the ashubh one is. And then there's a third category of sanskara, and that is divya sanskara. sanskaras that are going to take us to divinity, towards the Atma, Paramatma, towards God, towards the Brahman, towards the Akshara Brahman, Parabrahman, liberation. So that is called Divya Sanskar. So there's 3 different types of sanskaras. Now, those who are interested in enhancing the connection with God further, they need to increase the divine sanskaras, Divya Sanskara. Now, how do you differentiate between Shubh Sanskara and divine sanskara, Divya Sanskara? The Shubha Sanskaras are giving us good quality experience in the material world. The Divya Sanskara are also giving us good quality experience, but that experience is not in terms of just the attachment structure within the mind. The Shubha Sanskaras are still within the attachment structure. Divya Sanskaras are actually taking us out of the attachment structure into the divine realm completely. Right? So for example, let's give some examples. One example would be, let's just say someone who is going to a temple, like the Hindu temple. Somebody goes to any Hindu temple. There's a Shivling there, there's Ganeshji there. They go inside. So they do some archana, some puja, but there's a vibration there. There's some connection there with that divinity. So when you go in that place, that becomes a Divya Sanskar. Even if it's a small one, even if it's tiny, it doesn't matter. It could be someone who is just, overburdened with the problems of life, goes into a temple and just feels like, they feels a little bit of that touch of that divinity there. That becomes a sanskara. So that's one. But then what happens as you increase scriptural study? As I mentioned, the 5 types of satsanga, right? The Satpurush, Sat Vichar, such scriptures, the mantras. When we increase that type of stimulation, that has been time tested to open the doorway into the infinite. That is where the scriptures came from. Then that time tested path, which has been available from time immemorial, once we imbibe that, we begin to experientially grow from the Shubh to the Divya. So it is a transition from Ashubh to Shubh, and from Shubh, see Bhagavad Gita says Shubha Shubha Parityagi. Then you leave both Shubh and Ashubh. They're both left. This is very, very difficult to understand even. But the Gita is saying that the devotee, the bhakta, the mumuksha, the jnani, whatever language you want to use, that he or she leaves both Shubh and Ashubh. That doesn't mean you're not doing good things, and it's not like that. Internally, the attachment that is there within the Shubha activity, the good qualities activities which are within Sattva Gun. So those good quality activities that are within Sattva Gun are called Shubha. You see? And so that which is Ashubh, Shubh, and then Divya. So there's 3 different types of karma that is done. There's 3 different types of sanskaras. And in most human beings, all 3 are jumbled and mixed together. This is the entanglement that we are experiencing, because the Ashubh Sanskara, we experience that directly in terms of the pain, suffering, difficulty, agitation, energy loss, etc. Shubh Sanskara, good things. We want wonderful things for family, for our desires in the material realm, whatever the desires are, so they can be fulfilled also. That's why, like when we do the Durga Upasana, Devi Upasana, Shakti Upasana, we put the Sankalpam out there. Even when we go to temples, like Hindu temples, we say, what is your Sankalpa? What do you want, essentially? What do you want to see happen next? So that is called Shubha Sankalpa. It's good. You can go to God as a devotee and ask for material things also. There's no restriction in doing that, by the way. People have misunderstood, don't ask God for anything. It's not like that. Is a higher level. So the Gita is saying this. Sachin is not saying anything here. I'm just going to give you the references. Gita says clearly there are 4 types of devotees. This is Artho, Artharthi, Jigyasu, or Jnani. 4 types in the Bhagavad Gita. So when we go to a temple, when we do Archana, Puja, whatever we are doing, any sadhana, it can be done with 4 types of intention. Now you'll see how this connects with the Ashubh, Shubh, as well as the Divya Sankalpa, the Divya Sanskara. Alright, so how does it connect? the first category is artho artharthi. Artho means what that refers to. Those people who have lost things in life. They have lost family, they have lost money, they have lost businesses. They're lost, so many things are there. And they're asking God to bring that back. So this happens quite often. You see people in temples and churches in so many places that they have lost certain things and they want them back, or they want to increase them after getting them back. But particularly those who have lost things. This is the first category of devotee. And is there anything wrong in asking God to remove the deficiency, to get that back? No, there's nothing wrong. There's absolutely, but it is called Sakam Bhakta. So I'm throwing a bunch of terms here. I want to be really clear about these. Sakam Bhakta means with desire the bhakti is done. Sa means with. Sakam Bhakti. So the first category is of this type, that the person has lost things in life and they want to get them back. Second category is the individual who has good balancing, good amount of material in the material world, food, water, clothing, housing, whatever, education, things are there. They want to expand that further. Somebody has one store, they want 10 stores, whatever. Or like in my case, I have 2,000 books. I want another 2,000 books, something like that. Everybody to each his own, right? So wo bhi ek ichha hai. So that is a desire that whatever I have now, I want something more than what I have right now, whatever that might be. All right. So that wanting something more can be ashubh and shubh. You see the beautiful connection. I can say that, I want to study, more psychology and medical science, and which I like to do quite often. So that is a shubh ichha. It's a good thing. I mean, I can study philosophy until for many lifetimes, and still there'll be no end to that, right? Okay, fine. So that is shubh ichha. Some people say, I want to just serve the humanity. I want to do selfless work, to alleviate human suffering. That is shubh ichha. It can be divine also. So shubh ichha is the second category generally, in the sense that you are trying to expand the experience in the material world. That is the second category of the devotee in the Bhagavad Gita. So artho, artharthi, jigyasu, and jnani. So now the third category is jigyasu or jignasa. Jignasa is what? It is the curiosity, the desire to know, what is desire? What am I doing in my life? What is the purpose of my life? Is there really Atma? What are the chakras, and what is the mystical reality? What is the ultimate purpose of life? So all of those kinds of deeper questions that come about beyond simply pursuing more experience in the material world, that is called jigyasu, and that is also a devotee. So Bhagwan ke bhakta hote, many of them are jignasu or jigyasu in Hindi. Meaning what? They are doing devotional practices, pujas, mantras, shastras, scripture, but they are curious what will happen. If I do this sadhana, what will happen? If I study the Avadhut Gita, or if I study Gnaneshwari, if I study Vedanta scriptures, then I will gain more understanding and more awareness. I'm curious to know what I don't know. That is called jigyasu. That is a third category. So the person isn't asking for something material as such, but is asking for wisdom, for knowledge, for better understanding, which I think most of us fall into that category to a large extent, And then there's many others who fall into the other two categories. And then there's also mixture. These things are not distinct completely. They're mixed also. All right. Now, the fourth category is jnani. So jnani, Bhagwan Krishna says, jnani is me. I am the one who is truly a jnani, or jnana in Gujarati we say. I guess in Sanskrit is jnan, like this is pronounced like that. It is the form of God. That being who is a pure jnani is a manifestation of Paramatma actually, because Sri Krishna says the jnani is my Atma. You see, that is within me, because it's closest to me, it's inside of me. I am that actually. So what is the jnani? The jnani is one whose vision, the internal vision, is completely opened up from every angle. Sahasraksha. We said that Bhagwan Shankar has 1,000 eyes. The 1,000-petal lotus, Sahasraksha. And then we said that the jnani has infinite eyes. Ananta Lochana. So Bhagwan ke jo Lochana, Anant, sees everything from every angle, from everything. You see, I may have said this before, that the ordinary human being has two eyes. The one with good ethics and morality and a little bit more increased wisdom has the third vision, the greater vision, three eyes. Not that third eye of the Shiva, I don't mean that way. And then the one who has patience, tremendous patience in life with oneself and with what's going on in the world and family, and has seven eyes, much broader vision. जिसके जीवन में धीरज है, उसका जीवन बहुत अद्भुत बनता है, because tremendous stability is there amidst even great chaotic situations. Patience, so as that Shirdi ke Sai Baba, that famous saying of his, Shraddha or Saburi. Saburi means patience, means steadiness. Seven eyes. Seven eyes, it doesn't mean like seven physical eyes. It just means that your mind is much more clear and broader. Then one who is a Jnani has Ananta Lochan, can see things from every angle. Based on personal experience, based on world of experience, scriptures, gurus, everything. Everything is all in one. Then there is no differentiation. So we say, like, for example, Bhagwan Dattatreya or Guru Shankaracharya ji or Sajanand Swami or Paramahansa Yogananda, or whoever it might be, whoever the great Gyanis are, they see things from all angles. And then their activity in the world is for the blessings of those who are around them. Based on time, circumstance, culture, tradition, so many factors are present there. So now let's see if we can pull these ideas together, right? So we talked about, so there's sanskar. Sanskar is the impression on the mind. The mind is actually very close to the Atma. The mind is, as I mentioned last several days, the mind is nothing but another manifestation of the Atma. But the mind is so much enraptured by the impressions of the external world, particularly the Ashubha Sanskara. Ashubha Sanskara is this Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Matsar. It becomes solidified inside. It's the solidification neuropsychologically, etc., of all of those impressions, and then a person is blocked. Those are called the granthis from the Kundalini point of view, Shakti point of view. They're called blocks. Granthi. Granthi means knots, actually. The word Granthi means knots, tied up knots. So these knots are within us because of the Ashubh Sanskara. We dislike someone, some conflict occurred, something maybe 15, 20, 30 years ago may have happened, and that darn thing is still stuck in our head somewhere. You see, that is called Granthi. So there's so many forms of these Granthis also. Sanskrit mein iska bahut detailed definition hai. There's Samshay Granthi, Mamatva Granthi, Aham Granthi, Karma Granthi, Laguta Granthi, Mamatva Granthi. There's all kinds. Meaning what? That these are the blockages. The knots create the blockages. The block meaning what is it that is blocked? That is Shakti. Energy is blocked. That's all. Right? So Ashubh Sanskara needs to be stopped. This is our first aim in the evolution towards higher consciousness. We don't want any Ashubh Sanskara to accumulate further, which would mean tremendous compassion for all. The Vasudeva Kutumbakam Sutra that is in the Upanishad, that brings this wisdom to us. That we consider whole humanity as one family. When we are really in that state, all negative feeling for everybody goes away. So the Ashubh Sanskaras go away. You know how the Ashubh Sanskara is created? Right now, there's all this thing with Ukraine and everything is going on. So many people are maybe hating the Russian president and other people and whatever the hatred. Okay, but see that is also creating Ashubh Sanskar. There's another way to handle that. To have compassion, to have good feelings, to pray for wisdom. Do something positive instead. Because the moment we generate negative thought towards anybody, even though that person may be very negative and hurtful and terrible and lower consciousness and whatever they may be, but why generate a negative thought current? Because we generate a negative thought current towards anybody, even any creature. That thought current begins to grow inside of us. That is called Ashubh Sanskar. So our own mind, through the causal body and the vasanas and our own ego, will keep generating Ashubh Sanskara. See, this is the problem in the world. This is the fundamental problem. We don't even know that as human beings we're doing that. But once we recognize, no, this is not going to take us anywhere. Yeah, I mean, another prime example are all the people who are addicted to everything, the 11 substances and pornography and gambling and stealing and theft and shopping. We talked about that. What is that? Ashubh Sanskar. It is a very solidified sanskar that is so hardwired, person nearly cannot get out of that. Why? Because it is too deeply ingrained inside the mind to the point where it further increases the strength of the causal body. Karan Sharir Ka Nash, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, when he came here, Sajanand Swami Maharaj, he said that I have only one mission. I want that causal body of the human beings to be gone. He says, I'm not going to do, everything he did was along those lines, to destroy the causal body. Shankaracharya ji also tried to do the same thing. He also did it. He started he gave his exposition on the causal body. Right? So the causal body is the cause of rebirth upon rebirth upon rebirth. And that is solidified further by Ashubh Sanskar. Now, if you have stopped the Ashubh Sanskar and get to the Shubh Sanskaras, all good feelings, good ethics, good morality, a lot of good evolution as a human being. There is a lot of best use of money, best use of power, best use of speech for the benefit of all. Sarvajivi Hitava, all that kind of stuff. It's a very dharmic life, very, very shubh life, very good quality life. Even what we're eating is done in moderation. We're not chasing after that, things like that. So there's no ashubh activity of any kind. Again, that transition from shubh to ashubh is a massive transition. If an individual or when an individual makes the transition, they are then living a life of phenomenal balance and so much ananda, so much joy is there. Bahut sukh hai usme. I don't want to use the word ananda, but I'll use the word sukha. There is minimal dukkha and maximum sukha when the shubha activity is going on completely. But remember, to make the transition from ashubh to shubh, one must know the difference between the two. How can I make the transition between ashubh and shubh if I'm mistaking in my head that what I'm considering to be ashubh is actually good for me? Is actually because I feel some sensation, I feel some stimuli, I feel whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm experiencing, I think, I'm just going to run after that. But it's causing more entanglement, more bondage, more energy damage, more engulfment, more trouble. If I cannot see that difference between the two, I will never come out of the ashubh activity. It will never stop even. In fact, it goes on from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. That is why the great avtaras, the great evolved beings from other dimensions, they come here to bless the world, because the world is always drowning within the ashubha sanskara, ashubha activity. Not always, but depending on the yuga cycles and all. But it is, for the maximum part, people don't have that wisdom. They don't have the understanding behind that. So this distinction is part of the initial viveka. The viveka that Adi Shankaracharya ji is talking about, that is the viveka at the highest levels between the real and the unreal. That is the Vedantic idea. That is where the Jnani part comes into play, the fourth category of devotee. Okay, we'll get to that in just a moment. So very interesting. Now, the transition, assume for a moment, a person has actually transitioned completely into the Shubha Sanskara. So that means there is Shubha Vasana also. So now you will see there are several words. Shubha Vasana, Shubha Sanskara, and Shubha Kriya, that is Shubha Karma, right? Shubha Vichar, Shubha Vani. Shubh means good quality, not harming anybody. It's mostly sattvic, maybe 100% sattvic, let's say, very good quality. Alright, so somebody might say, well, what's wrong with that? But there's nothing wrong with it, obviously. But that is within Sattva Gun. That is still within the realm of Maya. Now this becomes difficult to understand. My God, if that is within realm of Maya, what is beyond Maya? We cannot understand this thing. At the most we can understand, okay, what is Ashubh and go to Shubh? What is the negative thing turn to positive? Okay, we understand that. What does it mean to go beyond? When Sri Krishna is saying Shubha Parityagi. Parityag means that you are letting both of them dissolve. My God, what in the world is that? That is called Gyan. Or wo bahut badi baat hai. That is not information. That is not just, Sachin talking a little bit here and there, or is anybody else talking a little bit here. It's not just words. It's the realization of the complete purview of the experiences of the mind, experiences of life, and the ability that evolves, that develops by leaving it all alone. completely leaving every activity alone and offering it within the fire of knowledge. When we do the homam, it is actually that is to go from shubh to from ashubh to shubh, and then from shubh to divine, right? So that is a Shakti Upasana approach. Now along with that complementary is Jnana Yagna and Jnana Agni. See the Jnana Agni. The Jnani is one who is seeing that even any ashubh thing has happened, you put into the fire of Brahman. Shubh thing has happened, put into the fire of Brahman. Everything that is offered in the Havan is consumed by that fire. Is it not so when we do a Havan? So we can offer all experiences of every kind into the heart where the Brahman exists. Ruddhe Shredajuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani. See, Yantra Rudani Maya Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Ruddhe Shredajuna Tishtati. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. See, God is present in the heart. In Vachanamrita also, or Shikshapatri, Bhagwan Swami, he said that there's a physical heart, but internally there is the Anahat Chakra, certainly. And then there's the Atma Tattva. And within that Atma Tattva, Bhagwan is existing, residing actually. Within the heart, within this spiritual heart, like the spiritual self, God is present there. So when we offer everything, every kind of action, every sense data, every sense experience, you take the whole thing and you offer it within that Gnan Agni, Gnan Yagna, Gnan Yoga. See, we talked about Gyan Yoga, so there is Gnan Yoga means what? That the yogi who is offering again and again everything back into the Brahman. Brahma Rapanam, Brahma Havir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaivatena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina, Hari Om Tat Sat. This is in the, I think, 4th chapter of the Gita. Everything is Brahman. So that is a state where the activity that is done within the Brahman. It is done in that consciousness. That consciousness is performing activity, not the individualized me, not that PFT, perceiver, feeler, thinker, as Swami Chinmayanji's diagram that we were looking at last several days. Not that. That entity is pretty much dissolved at that point, other than some functional aspect of it. That's it. You see, so the Jnani is one who is able to take even all of the good activities and sacrifices all of the ego behind that. It is a sacrifice of the ahankara. Sachin does 5 good things for 5 people. Somewhere inside the mind, that PFT comes up, right? The perceiver feeling, oh, this is me. I did something good. Even if that thought comes even for a fraction of a second, there is sattvic ahankar right away. That is within the realm of Maya. Now you're back into Shubha realm. The activity was Shubha, and Shubha Sanskara is created from that, and which will also lead to rebirth. Even the Shubha Sanskaras lead to rebirth. See, this is the secret, this is the technology or the understanding within Advaita Vedanta. As in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma, jisko Brahma Gyan kehte. Brahma Gyan is what? It is the realization that the ego is to be completely sacrificed. The individualized ego is sacrificed into the Brahman, and that is called Aham Brahmasmi. Tattvamasi, Ayam Atma Brahma. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. There are 6 Mahavakyas. Soham. Upanishad means 6 Mahavakya about those Jnani saints. So when we take our ahankara activity, which is tormenting us and damaging energy and creating bondages and granthis and entanglements and everything, that's what it's doing. The me. When we take that me completely and sacrifice it at the feet of God as a devotee, when we offer, see, what is it that God is wanting from what is it that Bhagwan doesn't have? God doesn't have our ego. He doesn't have our mind. We have to give that over freely. He has everything. He can by force take it away. Wo baat alag hai. By force, Sajanand Swami also used to put people in samadhi. It's not by force, by grace, but they come out of it and they continue their activity. He gave them a glimpse of the divinity. But that usko krupa samadhi kehte the. You see? But that is not. That is just a glimpse to give the jiva an indication there is something beyond. That's all. But in actuality, while we're alive with the mind-body complex in our life, this body, this mind, this is an opportunity to take the ahankar behind all activity, sacrifice it at the feet of God as a devotee, that, oh Lord, you are the one who is doing everything, the path of thou, as Ramakrishna Paramahansa would say. There are three paths. There's the path of just you. That is a bhakti, pure bhakti path. Not asking anything from God. That is the jnani. Wo jo jnani jo hote, they don't ask anything from Paramatma. Nothing. Because they have realized that even if I ask anything, it is within the realm of the mind. Thy will be done, thy kingdom come, as in Christianity. So there's no me asking for even mukti in Vachanamrut, which is referenced from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the four types of mukti are also not desired by the devotee. Salokya, sarupya, sayuja, samipya, like this, to stay with God, to be merged inside God, and to, so many different types of muktis are there. That is also called sakam bhakti. You want certain kind of mukti. It's a high stage of devotion. Koi ordinary baat nahi hai. But even that is left. Only thing that remains is prasannata, Bhagwan ki prasannata. Thy will be done. There's no me asking anything. As Swami Chinmayananda explained so many beautiful, he kind of jokingly said, that we pray to God. It's not that we're praying to God, we're praying upon God. We're praying upon God, give me this and give me this and give me this. Okay, fine. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Sakam Bhakti is okay. Another saint from Swaminarayan Sampradaya talked about Sakam Bhakti this way. I'm just giving as a reference, and his name is Hari Swarup Swami from one of the branches in the Sampradaya. He said that if you are a Sakam Bhakta, you want different things from God, whatever you want. What happens when you are praying and doing sadhana and bhakti, whatever God is, Paramatma, you come into his vision. See, it's like this. If we're a small child wanting whatever we're wanting from our parents, we keep asking and asking and asking and asking. The one thing is for sure, the parent is going to hear what you're saying. They may not give you what you want, but the parent will say, this kid is asking so much. At some point, isme kya hota hai? If the sadhana gets more and more intense in Sakam Bhakti, then a point comes where there's so much Shubh Karma developed, Bhagwan uska phal dete. That is, you see, the fruit comes. And then when the fruit comes, one has to be aware that this fruit has come. So when you do sadhana in Sakam Bhakti, at some point, based on what you're wanting, at some point, it may not even be in this lifetime, but at some point, depending on the level of the bhakti and the intensity of the bhakti, what you are wanting to see happen will come into your experience within the three states, Jagra, Sapna, Sushupti. That is what the Veda mantras are up to that point. The Vedanta is beyond that point. This is why in the Gita, Sri Krishna is saying, go beyond the Vedas. Trigunya Vishaya Veda. The Vedas are within the realm of three gunas. It's fine. It's no problem. It's okay. Certainly. But so if sadhana increases, like for example the Shri Sukta mantra, Om Hiranyavarnam Harinim, is good to do. It's good to do all the way through. If we do more and more and more and further, what is the intention behind doing that mantra? That is the key. If I say, okay, I want X amount of dollars, or I want X amount of this wealth, or I want something in the material world, if the sadhana increases steadily with conservation of energy, without diversion, and with pure love for God, but with sakam bhav, you want something, at some point that fruit will come about and it will come into your life. Definitely. That is a Vedic law. That is a law of the Vedas, actually. It is a undeniable, it is an infallible law that you want something from God and you do the proper sadhana behind it with the good intention, and you continue along those lines, the fruit will come to you. So that is Sakam Bhakti. It depends on what you're wanting, and we are always wanting something. The most difficult and the most rare state of mind is where we want only pure realization of the Brahman, liberation, Shuddha Mumukshutva, Tivra Mumukshutva, as we have been studying in the Vivek Chudamani, Tivra Mumukshutva. So Tivra Mumukshutva means I want something, but I want liberation only. That is also a desire. That is also still within the realm of mumukshu, the third category, right? The jigyasu or the mumukshu, who is seeking liberation. See, actually, there's artho, artharthi, jigyasu, and gyani, and then there's another 4 categories like that. There's pamar, vishayi, mumukshu, and mukta. So that's other. They kind of run kind of parallel, but not exactly parallel. So there's other 4. The pamar are those who are just lost in tamogun, drugs and alcohol and sedation, and they cannot be active that much even in this. People sitting in psych hospitals or the Delaware State Hospital and psychiatric hospital. They're in that unfortunate state. Then the Vishayi are strongly motivated for sense gratification, sexuality and money and position, power and name, fame, this, that. That is called Vishayi, the second category. The third category is Mumukshu. That's where Vivek Chudamani begins. And there's levels of Mumukshutvam, right? Durlbam trayameveta devanugraha hetukam manushyatvam mumukshutvam mahapurusha saunshrayaha. So the Mumukshutvam is what? It is the intensity of desire for liberation. So when that intensity grows, what happens? One is, of course, doing all Shubh activity, but one is now is in the third category of sanskara, that is the Divya sanskara, that the mind is now getting colored by satsanga, by the scriptures, by the mantras, by the great gurus, by their lives, by staying in that world of satsanga. So it is also a world. In some sense, it is very Shubha, no doubt, but it is beyond Shubha also, because it aims to take us out of Maya. That is the beauty of it. It aims to take us to evolve the mind back into the Atma, to evolve the mind in such a way that there is so much glorious light that is shining. So and that light of the Atma and Paramatma shines everywhere. Usko Atma Sakshatkar kehte, right? So that is the Divya Sanskara. That's the third category. So you'll see the third category is Divya Sanskara, right? Then you also have, at the same time, you have Tivra Mumukshutva, great intensity, desire for liberation. There's Jigyasa, also wanting to learn and know and grow. Beautiful. So when you have an individual who is evolving into that state is in a preparatory stage for being a Jnani. Jnani is a Tattvadarshi. In the Bhagavad Gita it says Jnani is one who can see the reality from every angle. You see, so that is a vision. That is a tremendous vision, to be able to see the reality from every angle. Now remember, I want to make one point clear here. There is something called Shuddha Gyan and Shushka Gyan. These are also two interesting points. Shuddha Gyan is infused with bhakti and divine love for Bhagwan. Bhagwan ke vishay prem, which means love for all. It doesn't mean sitting in front of a murti saying, I love Ganesha, but I hate everybody else. That is not love. That is the most, Ganesha will say, you go away from here. That is not love. I mean, so okay, you came to me, but you try to gain something from me. You try to stop hurting others. It's really crazy. There are individuals sometimes who do this kind of this negative, they call black tantra, jisko kehte. So sometimes they worship Kalika Devi with a negative intention. But that it happens, and they use Bij mantras in a negative way. That is why that the purification has to be there before you use any Bij mantra. Bij mantra is raw energy. So what it does, it can harm somebody. It can harm you also. You see, this is the problem in the world. The problem is that people are intent on harming each other with whatever energy they have, whether it is scientific knowledge or verbal energy or whatever, countries warring with each other. What they're doing is they're using energy that God has given through their ego, and they're harming each other. You see, so sometimes through weapons. Look at how many weapons there are in the world. Sometimes even adhyatmik sadhana bhi aisi kuch ho sakti hai, but it's not adhyatmik. It is not even within the realm of regular Maya. It is a very destructive and negative thing. So there, that kind of thing. Some people try to do that because of ego. Ye sab asuri jo hote, they sometimes do intense sadhana. I mean, look at the history in India. The whole realm of all of those asuras, they all were bhaktas. They're all worshipping goddess. They're worshipping the Bhagwan Shiva or Brahmaji, worshipping somebody, and they were so intense. So when God comes to them, they ask, what do you want? Why are you doing it? Because as I said, there's a law, right? You do sadhana, you will get the fruit. Like Hiranyakashipu. He says, I don't want to be killed under any situation. But then there was one door open, and then that Narsimha avatar came, right? Why is that? Because the Asur Bhav is not destroyed. See, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, when he came, he said, I'm not going to, this time when I have come, he says that he said about himself that I'm coming from that transcendental state. I want to destroy that Asuri Bhav. That's what all the sages are wanting. They don't want to kill anybody. Killing somebody is not the answer. I mean, in an extreme situation, yeah, there's some whatever wars are done. Okay. That's a different subject. But actually what needs to be destroyed is the Asuri Bhav. That Ashubh Sanskara, Ashubh Kriya, this seeds of these Asuri Bhav, these things keep growing and growing. They can diminish, they can grow. They can diminish, they can grow. But they're still there. And until and unless they are destroyed, there's no chance of liberation. The entrapment in the Brahmand will go on for God knows how many lifetimes. It is incredible, the cycle of transmigration. If you look at the Srimad Bhagavatam says 84 million 84 lakh species have been identified in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's probably more than that, but Srimad Bhagavatam has categorized them this way: Udbij, Jarayu, Shvetaj, Andaj. 4. These 4 classifications of the species is in this Bhagavatam itself, which is now, of course, has been discovered in biological taxonomy and other areas. So we can see that this body, as Shankaracharya said, this body is so precious and rare. Don't waste it at all. Don't waste any time. Get into that Shubha state. Get into that divine state of Satsanga. Shubh to hota hi hai, but beyond the Shubha is the divinity. All Shubh Kriya is done without ego, that becomes divine. Because Shubh or Ashubh, Parityag. So Sachin does something good, Sachin does XYZ. The karma is offered at the feet of God. I have nothing to do with it. There's no me. In the history of India, there are thousands of scriptures written where the sages have not written their byline. Who's written them? Nobody knows. Now somebody writes one poem and they want to publish it in 10 different websites and have their name go. Kitna agyan hai. Think about those sages who wrote thousands of verses, never wrote their name because they were not identified with their name or their form. That is called gyan in real sense. I'm not saying we shouldn't put our name and all that. Functionally, we have to do those things. But people are after names, what others are thinking about me. Nobody's thinking anything about us. Even we should be thinking about where we are and get out of all this agnan. We are so interested in what other people are thinking about us and trying to build our images and this and there's so much of this kind of ego-driven activity which entraps us, prevents us from realizing that great truth. It prevents us from gyan. The one who is truly a Gyani is never interested in promoting himself or herself. He may functionally write books, do things, whatever, but there's no intention. Like even J. Krishnamurti, he also mentioned so many times, he said a person who is truly awakened this way, whatever language used, I don't remember, but he said that person is unknown. Now, of course, Krishnamurti himself was known to a large extent. He wrote so many books, but he lived in that space. This is my opinion at least. He lived in that space where he didn't care if people knew who he was or not. Like even when he gave lectures and all that, at one time he sat behind the curtain. He said they didn't want people to see him. He said, don't idolize me, don't follow me. He said, you try to discover these truths yourself. We're having a dialogue, a conversation. And that is really the spirit of the Upanishad and the Gita. It's a samvad, right? Sri Krishna or Arjun ka kya hai? Samvad. Samvad ka kya meaning hai? What is the meaning? I'm sorry, I'm taking just a few more minutes here. Samvad means one who is more awakened, highly awakened, jo jisko Bhagwan kehte hai. And the word Bhagwan means the 6 Aishwaryas, which we'll talk about another time. One who has that, one who is at that higher level is now talking to, giving knowledge to the devotee, to the Shishya, to bring that Shishya to the same level. See, Sri Krishna said in the Gita to Arjuna, I can remember all my past lives, you cannot. But when Arjuna was taken to that level, he saw the Vishwa Swarup. So in the Gita also, Sri Krishna says, I am also Arjun. There's among all the archers, I'm Arjun. What does it mean? That means that when we realize that state, everything is that it is oneness with the Paramatma. So anyway, there's so much to be said. We'll continue this tomorrow, and then we'll watch that video also. We just took one line of it and it went into all this thing today. So, all right.